Well, so what went wrong and what can Brazil do to cash in on the remaining infrastructure? To find out, let's bring in Jules Boykoff, a professor at Pacific University and a former Olympic football player. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
You know, this is so disappointing. Brazil is such a magnificent place, so rich in history and culture. What happened here? Why did the games fail?
Well, part of it has to do with money. The Olympics have become a huge global spectacle that require billions of dollars to pull off. And I lived in Rio de Janeiro from August through December 2015 in the lead up to the Olympics. And it was difficult to find a Carioca, an everyday resident of Rio, who was excited about the Olympics because of the fact that so many billions were being thrown at the Games when real legitimate problems were all around society, from poverty to crime to environmental issues, which, by the way, were promised to be fixed because of the Olympics. These were supposed to be the legacies.
That's right. And we all thought they would be. Why weren't they fixed? We've seen this happen in other situations where Olympics were held in other countries.
Yeah, that's a great point, Susan. In a lot of ways, it's pretty easy to sort of blame it on Rio, if you will. And I think that's wrong in some ways. I mean, the organizers in Rio de Janeiro absolutely showed a whole lot of arrogance throughout the process, and they made lots of errors along the way. But what we saw in Rio is really Olympic problems as much as they were Rio problems. So why is that happening? For starters, there's no accountability. We have a process where cities are encouraged to make these grand bids, chock full of promises to get people excited about them on the front end, but there's no follow through on the backside. And I think the prime example of this, and the painful example of this, in Rio has to be the water situation. If you read the bid documents from Rio back in 2009, they're full of promises of how they were going to clean up the water, how it was going to be 80% purified, the water in places where they were going to hold Olympic events. This was going to be a huge positive legacy for everyday people of Rio. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. They didn't put the money toward it, and the best estimates that I've seen are about 21% of the water filtering into these areas are actually being cleaned right now. And I walked around to those areas. I saw it with my own two eyes, and I talked to a lot of people from Rio who are disappointed. So the answer to your question is there's no accountability. The people from the International Olympic Committee, they get in their jets, they start munching their caviar, and they head off to the next place, and they leave the Olympic city behind.
All right. Well, Jules Boykoff, thank you so much for your time joining us live from Portland.